With its monumental buildings, Ottoman bazaars and countless statues of all dimensions, the capital of North Macedonia is quite unlike any other city in Europe. Welcome to Skopje.
Dobrodošli v Macedonii v Skopje, da ponemite samo za obalu.
Skopje, a city little known outside the wider Balkan region, has risen to the challenge of becoming an internationally recognised capital city. And for the visitor, there is plenty to see and do. Economically speaking, Macedonia was the poorest of the former Yugoslav republics. So going it alone was always going to be a challenge. But the Macedonians had been seeking independence for centuries, and they weren't going to let this opportunity slip away. And thankfully, despite the various ethnic groups in the country, it largely managed to avoid the conflicts that enveloped neighbouring Bosnia and Kosovo. The name of the new nation did cause a problem because historically, Macedonia covered a much wider region, covering a large section of northern Greece. After independence, some controversial and cheeky voices even called for reunification. The last thing that Greece wanted was to be drawn into another Balkan conflict. The two countries already have their strong differences of opinion over who can claim Alexander the Great as their national hero. The controversial issue of the name has now been settled. This country is North Macedonia. The riverside area is now dominated by a vast urban development that was termed Skopje 2014. The idea was to create a capital and also to reclaim Macedonian identity. The style chosen was, well, neoclassical Greek/Macedonian. And obviously I've seen lots of pictures because these are the images of Skopje that go around the world. And I wanted to keep an open mind, see it for myself. But I have to admit, it is a little bit Caesar's Palace, Las Vegas. Now, I could understand one or two neoclassical pieces, but I do wonder whether maybe an opportunity has been lost to put some 21st century architecture here that would have really taken the city into the future. Something that isn't fake, though, is the gorgeous stone bridge dating back to the 15th century. The most powerful symbol of the new independent republic and the image that has gone around the world has to be this, the enormous warrior on a horse. Now, so as not to offend Greece, it definitely isn't Alexander the Great. Well, it might be, but no, officially, it definitely isn't. Definitely not. One thing's for sure, though, if you're a history teacher here in Skopje, then you have one enormous open-air classroom. This is the Mother Theresa house, a reimagining of her childhood house here in Skopje, where she spent the first 18 years of her life. It houses a museum, and it's a building that has attracted some controversy, but I quite like it. It's certainly quirky. So far, you're probably wondering, this is a capital city. Where are all the people? They're here, in the old Ottoman quarter, north of the river. I fully expected the National Gallery of Macedonia to be housed in one of the colossal new buildings, so I was pleasantly surprised to find that actually you can find it in the intimate surroundings of an old Ottoman bathhouse or hammam. And even more surprising perhaps is that the contemporary art scene in Macedonia is a really exciting place to be. This is a great museum, definitely my favourite in Skopje. Skopje's most celebrated mosque is that of MUSTAFA PASHA. It dates back to 1492, and miraculously it survived the great earthquake of 1963. The 15th century Sultan Murad Mosque is larger and even older than the PASHA Mosque. It was built by the conquering Ottomans on the site of an already existing Christian monastery, and it wakes me up every morning at 5 o'clock with the call to prayer. The whole complex is justifiably recognised as one of the most important examples of Ottoman architecture anywhere in the Balkans. If you can hear me above the crows. In 1963, Skopje was hit by an earthquake that destroyed over 80% of its buildings and killed over 1,000 of its residents. International donations flooded in, and a vast plan for reconstruction was dreamt up under the guidance of the Japanese architect Kenzo Tange. In the early 60s, the material of choice was, of course, concrete, and Tange's vision was for a city of formidable brutalist monuments and buildings. Most of his plan was indeed followed through, and the legacy of that decision is that Skopje now has probably the largest collection of brutalist buildings anywhere in the world. It's very hard to summarise Skopje because there are so many different sides to this city. At moments it can feel really busy, and then suddenly it can seem completely empty. Parts are run down and other parts squeaky clean. It's the contrast of 15th century mosques against raw 1960s brutalism. And the statues. Well, you have to mention the statues. For every statue that makes you go wow and take 20 photographs, there'll be another that makes you say, what is that? But hey, the art, the architecture, it all provokes a reaction. And one thing you certainly can't say about this capital city is that it's boring. But that's all I've got time for. Goodbye from Skopje, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next journey.